Kenya Kwanza, and Martha Karua is in the race with Raila Odinga for Azimio la Umoja One Kenya. Yvonne, it's been slightly about a week since they were both named, almost 2 weeks. And to use this term, they've literally hit the ground running. Literally hit the ground running. With Martha Karua, I think the day after she was named by Raila Odinga, akaanza safari yake pale Mlimani. And she's been there throughout, I think, except for when she went to Narok with Raila Odinga, and yesterday she was in Garissa. And she's been alone throughout the campaigns, of course, accompanied by leaders from Central Kenya, including Jeremiah Kioni, Peter Munya. And then now, on the other side, we have Rigathi Gachagua also going out on his own. He was in my home county of Kericho, where he was received very well. And he's been focusing mostly on that Rift Valley region, where he was actually in Baringo today, in Kabarunet. Yesterday he was in Eldoret. And it's something that Kenya Kwanza started doing, having these economic forums where they speak to the people, listen to what their issues are, and making all the promises that they'll sort out the issues after if they are elected as in the elections. And William Ruto has been doing that at the coast. But I think as the running mates start going around the country trying to move voters, I think what the both sides are doing are sort of playing on their strengths from both of this lady and the gentleman. With Martha Karua, she's from Central Kenya, take her there, try and get those precious votes from there. Mimi ni wenu, nimekuja kwa heshima, nimekuja kunyenyekea, nimekuja kutafuta kura yenu. I think maybe we can listen to her. Tumekuja na heshima, the bite by Martha Karua, and then we can continue. Yes, let's listen to that bite.
Kazi yangu ni kuja kupanda, kunyunyuza maji, kupalilia. Nitakuja kila siku mpaka siku ya mwisho. Walio wengi tuwe pande moja, na hiyo pande ni moja, ni pande ya Azimio ambao kinara wake ni Raila Amolo Odinga, akisaidiwa na Martha Wangare Karua.
And that has been the message. Yvonne, nimekuja hapa, nitakuja tena, nimekuja kwa amani, nimekuja kuomba kura and all that. And that is one of her strengths. She's from Central Kenya. She goes there. She's also a woman. Yesterday, she was at the 70th anniversary of Maendeleo ya Wanawake organization, and she was in Garissa for it, and she was with the women. And she spoke at them and said, kina mama, nitawashughulikia mimi mmoja wenu. Those are her strengths. And she's attracting huge crowds. What happened in Narok with Raila Odinga. And then now there's Rigathi Gachagua, who is now going into places that are Kenya Kwanza zones. He was in Kericho, Baringo, he was in Eldoret, he was in Kiambu with these economic forums, and he's listening to the people, speaking to the people. I think they even sit in the crowd and listen first before going up on the dais and responding to what they have to say. Maybe we can listen to Rigathi Gachagua on economic forum in Kiambu, and then we can continue.
Tayari kazi inaendelea. There is a team imeenda Uganda na ingine Tanzania. Tujue ni kwa nini bei ya animal feeds yao iko chini. Ndio tukuje tujumlishe na yale maoni yako, so that by the time you take over government, within the first 3 months, bei ya animal feeds imeenda chini. So hiyo kazi inaendelea.
And that is what they're doing, Yvonne. Matatizo ya hapa ni yapi? Ni hii, mnawasikiza alafu. And that's what's been going. Wamegawana. You can see both of them wame separate from the presidential aspirants. Wanajaribu kucover more ground. Kila mtu anafanya kazi yake kama running mate.
Yeah. What's it been like for you, Linus? It's been about a week since the announcement for both of them. How have they fared? Obviously, like we said, hit the ground running, and this is it now. It's sort of getting into the home stretch.
I think this is a question that also belongs to the respective political campaigns, because what they have to be looking at right now is what is the impact of the naming of the running mate to the ticket. And that is exactly the assessment that is going on right now, both within Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio coalition. And from my end, what I see is, let's start with Kenya Kwanza, the appointment of Rigathi Gachagua. Rigathi Gachagua has been deployed exactly the way the appointment itself was intended, which is energize that particular base. Look at the UDA areas where the UDA had made a lot of gains, and consolidate that. Rigathi Gachagua was a pick to consolidate, especially the Mount Kenya vote, make sure that it stays where it is. Because the assumption in UDA, and backed by numbers, is that Mount Kenya, the majority, had already trooped into the column of Kenya Kwanza, and so how do you keep them there? And one of the ways was to deploy an insider mobilizer like Rigathi Gachagua to speak to them. And like I said in last week's show, Gachagwa's assignment doesn't seem to move out of the UDA zones. I don't think this is the man they intend to send to Western Kenya, for example, send to Garissa, send to Masai Land, or send to the coast. Rigathi Gachagua is meant to operate within the strongholds, the core strongholds of UDA Kenya Kwanza, which is Central Kenya and Rift Valley. Because you can see in his movements, they've already done Eldoret, they've done Nakuru, they've done Baringo, and he's also gone to Kiambu, and Murang'a.
He was also in Kericho.
And Kericho as well. Yeah. So you can see the map is within the traditional spaces that are considered the Kenya Kwanza UDA strongholds. Then when you look at the Azimio side, deployment of the naming of Martha Karua, the first thing it has really done is to energize the Azimio base, give it some more energy, because there was the perception that Raila Odinga, in terms of age, has become either slower than the candidate he was in the last 3 elections. And that ticket was seen as a bit dull in a way. But then comes Martha Karua, who brings in a lot of momentum. She has also proven herself in the short space of 1 week that she is a very energetic campaigner. She's done all the core 5 counties of Mount Kenya. Is there 5 or 4? You have Kiambu, Murang'a, Kirinyaga, Nyeri. That has already been done. She's now added Nyandarua. She's also done Laikipia. And
Meru, Embu.
Yes. This is a whirlwind campaign. And she comes, and when you look at her speeches, she comes with the realization, first of all, acceptance that these are areas that UDA already commanded a lead. And you can see her language to persuade. Tumekuja na heshima. We are planting a seed. I am coming back to water it, and we are going to harvest it. And so she has structured her campaign by factoring in what the ground was at the time of her naming, and that was, the ground was UDA leaning, and her assignment is to turn it to Azimio leaning. And she has approached very symbolic language, saying she's planting a seed and then she's coming to water. We are going to move in the same direction. But one thing that is acknowledged already is the energy and momentum she has brought to the Azimio side.
Absolutely, and I also look at it this way, Linus. The choice of running mates is significant. A running mate is supposed to complement and even supplement the presidential candidate. Bring what the presidential candidate does not have, or embolden it. For example, the choice of Rigathi Gachagua was to solidify the Mount Kenya bloc. Remember, the presidential election is a game of numbers. And so you look at your strongholds first, vis-a-vis the strongholds of your opponent. And so what is it that you need to do to maintain your core bases? And once you maintain those core bases, also strategize on how to get numbers from elsewhere, from your opponent's bases. So basically, I would look at it from that point of view. And then secondly, look at that running mate who has the capacity to also help you to raid your opponent's strongholds by way of messaging, by way of high energy, by way of character, by way of the values that they bring into the campaign team. And so look at the numbers that, for example, turned up in Madeira during, you can call it the homecoming of Rigathi Gachagua. It was more like a statement, of showing where his strength and where the numbers are. Look at what has also been happening to Mother Karua. The courage to go into what you can call a hostile territory. I mean, you saw some aspirants who are vying for various elective seats not having the courage, for example, to even put photos of Raila Odinga, who is the presidential candidate, of Azimio. See what has happened now with the inclusion of Mother Karua into the ticket. You now see aspirants who are, or candidates who are now able to put their photos side by side with that of Mother as well as that of Raila. So there's some courage that she brings into the ticket. And thirdly, the capacity and ability to boldly ask for votes for Raila Odinga. You've had sentiments of various aspirants who are saying, I'm concentrating on my seat, vote for me, as me. They're not talking about the presidential candidate. Now there's a discussion around that presidential candidate, that is Raila Odinga. So it's also the high energy that she brings and the courage to look for votes for Raila Odinga particularly. But at the same time...
And also face hecklers.
And face hecklers, actually, that's what I was coming to. You see, one of the ways of discouraging your competitor is by sending them some hostility. And so if you're booed and you chicken out, then you give an advantage to your opponent. But if the hostility is directed your way and you're able to face that hostility like we saw with Mother, it becomes easy to trigger a conversation. People will now start listening to you. Oh, what did you mean? What did you want to say? And so on and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, give it also to Rigathi. He has his own ways of doing things. There may be baggage. There may be questions about his history, about his past when he was in the Moi government and so on and so forth. But there's an advantage that he brings to the ticket in terms of that high energy. And ultimately, the question will be, how much can your running mate help you to solidify your strongholds, your turf? And how much can your running mate help you to raid your opponent's turf and get some votes?
Wow. And so what happens over the next few weeks? Because, ladies and gentlemen, you know, the official campaign period actually begins on the 29th of May. I have said this several times.
According to Chebukati.
Yes, on my
So what has been happening?
For years.
Consultations.
With the people,
Loud
yes.
consultations.
Public participation, if you like. And so that is where we head to now. Once they are now, formally nominated by the IEBC. I mean, if we think we've been seeing them out on the campaign trail, it's going to get, even more fervent, and they will be going around the country and in certain ways even going back to where their opponents have been, to just go and try and undo a little bit of support that these ones may have garnered. And so that is the 29th, which is what date is it today? It's the 26th. That's on Sunday when officially the campaign period begins. Linus, you wanted to add something about where we go?
No, you asked what we expect in the next few days and going forward, and there's something that is encouraging to see. In the last 1 week, both political formations have actually been about issues. They've been about substance. They've been about real specific matters. And they've done this through either the economic forums, which then forces them to face especially issues in particular localities. You saw today Kenya Kwanza in Mombasa.
What about land?
The land issue.
The port issue.
And the port issue coming up from the locals and, of course, the politicians amplifying it. There's something else that we've noticed in the last 1 week. The insults are going down for whatever reason. The insults have not been that many, except for the usual disrespectful references. Characterizations. And quite frankly, DP Ruto is famous with this, calling yule mtu wa kitandawili au wale majamaa wa handshake. He doesn't call his fellow leaders by name. He calls them by, I don't know what to call that. It's more of characterizations. Otherwise, there is something that is happening about issues. And credit to Martha Karua, because she has absolutely insisted on a campaign on issues, and she spoke about that today in the prayer breakfast. But you can also track a number of sound bites in the rallies where she's saying, let us discuss issues, let us talk about things. And she also introduces increasingly the question of values. When you come to the question of values, it will now matter. It's actually a question of who are you? What do you stand for? It's not your ability to campaign. It's something that starts here before you even walk out of the house to go and campaign. And I think if the conversation is going to go in that direction, then we are in for a campaign that is going to be slightly different from the mchongwano that we've seen for many months now.
And I guess it's the realization that it's now, really, we're in the home stretch and it's down to the wire. I mean, you saw Rigathi Gachagua with, going all out with a bottom-up plan during the Kiambu, economic forum that they had. Today you saw Martha Karua talking about potato farming in Nyandarua. That is, an important economic mainstay for them. And then again at the coast, you saw Kenya Kwanza talking about land and the port. So it's all about these issues. Yeah. And even as they're, trading barbs with each other, it's over, the land issue, it's over the port issue, it's who can handle the issue of land better or the port better than the other. Is it Naivasha versus Mombasa? And perhaps this is where now things are going down to, because you see, it is at this point now that the teams are really concretized, especially with the big signal of the running mate being announced, that now they're starting to focus inwards, like, hey, what is our campaign? How is it going? And in fact, for both teams, you've seen them now start to divide themselves. And I think we did these stories this week. So Azimio saying we will separate, and having point men to head different campaigns for different regions, and Kenya Kwanza actually did the same. They're now starting to create structures within their campaign machinery about who's going where, who's headed where, and now you've seen it with the running mates, now able to go out separately and ask for votes, meet with their presidential flag bearers, do something together and fan out into different spaces. And, like Kenya Kwanza, I think, has broken it up into an economic forum. It's Moses Kuria who's heading, at least on the political front, the Economic Council. And so that is now what we're starting to see. Now it's, and maybe this is where it should have been. Is this unfortunate that in this country we started, campaigns, 4 years ago.
And I think it's for the benefit of the people.
Then it was easy to throw in names and name calling, but now
it's the issues now, and I think it's for the benefit of the people, Yvonne, that you're actually talking about issues that matter to them,
right?
And you're listening to them, and you're talking about, like you said, at the coast, at the port. Today, Rigathi Gachagua in Kabarnet, and they're talking about insecurity in Baringo, and he made a promise that I think in the first 60 days, if they win, they're going to look at that issue and all that. And ni mwananchi sasa ndo anafaidika, because those are the things that matter. It's unfortunate, of course, that that conversation is starting now almost towards the end, but still mambo ambayo ni muhimu kwa wananchi sasa wanaanza kusikizwa haswa. And I think that's very important. Gashuri, while we are finishing the show here.
Yeah, absolutely. And two things that drive political support: fear and hope. And that's the crux of the messaging, because you also want to go somewhere and make people realize that you identify with their problems, you identify with their challenges, and you're giving them hope that in the event you form government, you will address their problems. Yeah. But of course the fears that elect me and not so-and-so, because if you elect so-and-so, your issues will not be dealt with. So it's also a tool of decampaigning. Like, if you want your problems solved, they cannot be solved by so-and-so. They can only be solved by my team. So it's a whole conversation about fear and hope. And those are the two key things that drive turnout and choices, political choices, largely to a great extent.
Yeah, indeed. And I think Jamila Izanu likes to say it's a wrap and we finish.